don't know if I need to, if I need my eyes.
Yeah. All right, and you use that microphone?
Yes.
Okay, we are on FilmsGoneWild.com. My name is John Wildman. I'm the editor-in-chief of Films Gone Wild. We are going to talk about a documentary which made its world premiere at Dances with Films New York. We're right now at the Regal Union Square Cinema at Dances with Films New York. And introduce yourself, sir.
Hi, John. Thank you very much. I'm Ilan Azoulay, spiritual life coach and a sound therapist, and this is my first film and world premiere, and I'm really happy to be here. And my film is Holy Ghetto. Do you want to tell about the film?
Yeah. Please. Our audience has not seen it as yet, so introduce our audience to Holy Ghetto.
So Holy Ghetto tells the story of 4 souls that are trapped in Tel Aviv's red light district, intertwined in sex trafficking and addiction. Bound by hope, their spiritual journey is about transcending their personal ghettos. Olga was kidnapped and abducted at the age of 17 from Russia for the sex trade in Israel. Dave is an American who moved to the red light district to open a shelter for the homeless women in prostitution. Yana is a recovering addict and a struggling mother of 5. And Ohad is an Israeli guy who's a former sex trafficker of women who seeks redemption. So they all come together to ask this question of themselves and probably of us: can they rise above what they reduced themselves to be?
Now
this is about hope and transformation.
Well, now, and here's the initial question. I had, as someone who talks to documentarians a lot and talks about, how projects are come to be, how they're formulated, and in a situation like this, you go, well, it's one thing to land yourself plop in the middle of of this area, of this red light district, or however you want to characterize it, but there are a number of people you could have talked to, a number of people that you could have profiled, and you settled on these 4. And so my question is, how did you come into their orbit, and were there others that maybe you started talking to, following originally, that kind of fell to the wayside as these 4, rose in terms of the amount of time you're spending with them and the stories you're telling? How did it develop?
Yeah, well, I didn't settle, first of all. At the beginning, I didn't know what I was really doing. I thought initially that I'm making an issue film about sex trafficking in Israel. Now, this is my childhood neighborhood, where I grew up around this area. And when I was introduced to Dave, first of all, we really connected. And I loved spending time in the shelter. Because at that time, unknowingly, he was a big part of my wound. My own wound that I did not start going through. So I started the film without knowing that this is actually going to be my healing journey. And each participant is someone who I could connect with spiritually, or just like connecting, like speaking and having a good connection. And that is really what was my guidance, what was my beacon. Oh, stay here, you feel good about this. Much of the production was about how I was guided inside. And so slowly I start understanding that I'm going through a spiritual journey and a healing journey for myself. When I met Yana, which we connected right away, Ohad also, the ex-trafficker, he is the one that actually kind of, quote-unquote, cracked my box. Really. When we had this conversation at the end of the film in the kitchen, and I could not move for 2-3 days, I knew that I'm going through something. Olga was the hardest one to open up, for her to open up to me. But it took time. And this is what I say, it is all about relationship. It is all about not just the relationship between you and I, but my relationship to this relationship. How is this, where am I coming from? What place within myself do I inhabit when I meet you? If I am in a place of abundance and acceptance and joy, then that's what I see in you. And if I'm in the other place, that's what I also see.
Well, and I speak to documentarians a lot about the trust factor. And, and in this case, we're talking about people who have gone through extreme trauma, people who, you could arguably, still characterize them as damaged, but they've gone through. They certainly have gone through damage, and so it's if you were filming me, there'd be a trust thing that you'd have to achieve, right? Mm-hmm. Just anybody you'd have to. But in this case, there's a lot because of what they've gone through, what people have done to them, right? And so I would love for you to discuss about that, about how you approach that, not to win them over, but basically to put them at ease so they could open up, and as you mentioned, some of them, it took a while to get there, and some are ready to open up like a flower and go, here are my guts right here for you. Yes. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, it took a while before I actually hit the record button. So I just held the camera in my hand without doing it. It's like I would sit with you here and I hold the camera. Eventually, it becomes an extension of me. But for me, it was important. Actually, there were times that I didn't think I was doing a film. To me, it was almost like doing a family memoir kind of thing. Yes, there were the times that we're doing a sit-down interview and we have the lighting and the camera, but it felt home. So for me, it was important to develop the connection and the relationship. It was because my grandma all the time used to say, you all the time meet the person twice in life. It was like, it was more important for me to have the connection, the relationship. And I knew it will come. Some people, there were other participants that were supposed to be in the film, that I thought they were going to be in the film, that I did not have that. I could feel, there was the connection, not as a person, we can speak, but there was the underlying trust, connection, or wanting to trust. Each one of the participants in the film chose me, more than I chose them. They felt something. I don't know how to explain that. They felt, but each participant is a reflection of me. Olga, Dave, Yana, Ohad, they're all a reflection of me, and probably at least 25% with the viewer.
Well, then the next logical progression of that is how we find the film, because we talk about this a lot with documentarians, where we go. Oftentimes, there's a moment. It could happen during an interview, a specific interview. It could happen in the editing bay as you're cutting together. And usually, as I characterize it, it's that thing where you're watching it or it's happening, you go, oh, this is the movie. I thought this was going to be the movie, but this is clearly the movie, right? It reveals itself to you. And so I'd like for you to discuss that, because it sounds a little bit like, you started this, as you say, at some point you decided to turn on the camera, and it's like, and we're going to see where this goes with this person, or that person, or now a combination of people. But then at a certain point you go, oh, this is where it's leading to. Talk about that.
Yeah, so as I said in the beginning, I thought it's going to be an issue film about sex trafficking,
right,
as an issue. So for the first year, I interviewed talking heads, government, agencies. I had no problem accessing wherever I wanted. Everything was open. Like, maybe because I told them, oh, I'm from Boston. If you don't want to interview, that's fine. I'll just put a placard. You didn't want to give me an answer, but that was nuisance. And then I realized, when I start seeing them as people and not just see through statistics, that's when I knew that this is way more than I bargained for. But I knew that I did not have the tools yet to handle all this. People that were involved in my life at that time told me, Ilan, you don't even understand what you have in this film. And I remember telling her, I was like, I don't think so, I don't know. And I knew that this film will be finished, I just didn't know how and when. So when I start realizing that these are people, that Yana is a person, Olga is a person, Ohad, and doesn't matter what they did. Ohad, I was like, people tell me, how can you give space for a sex trafficker? It's like, don't you have a daughter? And yes, I do have a daughter. I do have daughters, But I see this beyond that, because it's just like what Dave says, I love you, but not what you do. And what you do can be changed if you understand and accept and love you and maybe show the way. It's like with all the systems around there, just punishing people. Punishing somebody without the whole word of punishing is like, is the educating, is without giving them a platform to shift or change, it's just going to happen again. It's like if you just slap a kid, don't do it, they're going to do it again, and stronger. That's not the right way. So that's when I noticed that it's something else when I cared for it.
Now, as you rightly described, this is not a call to action film. You know, it may have started, that may be the original intention, but it turned into something completely different. However, even though it is not a call to action film, it still is illuminating a very specific thing, being sex trafficking and being the people involved in that. And when you, as a filmmaker, have done a film like that, oftentimes, and I've discussed this many times with filmmakers, you become the expert in that, right? The film screens, Q&A happens, and everybody expects you to know all the facts and figures, they expect you to have all the answers, and what have you. And I love talking to filmmakers about this, so they're going, is that an idea that you embrace? Is that something you tolerate? I mean, because you're at the very beginning of this with this movie, right? But if you play, say, a dozen, 2 dozen fests, it's only going to get more and more and worse, so to speak, as it goes along. So how are you with the idea of that?
When I started the film, and I thought it was a sex trafficking issue film, I was invited on left and right before the film was even conceptual finished. I was this university, the expert of sex trafficking, and I was like, no. So, first of all, when somebody asks me, like, dragging me to a political thing, I shut it right now. This is not a political film, and you've seen it. There's nothing politics about this. The sex trafficking is a backdrop, just like the drugs and addiction is a backdrop, the story of the people. It's not about that story. It's not about that thing. So I'm totally fine because I'm here to talk and to encourage and empower the power of hope and transformation. And this is really what it is about. It's about hope and transformation and the tools that we can use and discover the power that we have within us to shift and change. Now, yes, granted there are situations around us we cannot do, but it starts somewhere. You know, in Hanukkah, in Judaism, the holiday of Hanukkah, we light a candle because one candle, one light will evaporate this entire room darkness. You know, so it has to start somewhere, and so I have no problem talking about this. I don't do politics. You know? So it is about us, about you, about me, about them, about the connections that we come together and what we can bring to the world, because we are wired to do good. When you do good for somebody, you feel good. You actually feel good, and it's like a dynamo. When we were kids, very quick. When we were kids, we didn't have a battery-operated flashlight for the bicycle. We had the dynamo. It was an Italian invention, and it was a device on the wheel. When you start driving, you snap it on, and as you pedal, the light comes. The more light you give, the more light you get. This is really what it is about.
Well, I mean, it is absolutely illuminating. You know, you very much put us side by side, literally, with each one of these personalities, and and really do, if you're not aware of this world whatsoever, if you have no idea, you will have a very keen idea of the people and how it affects them. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I was asked about the structure because I was so involved in it. I could not finish the film back then. I had to go through my own 7 years of going into my own ghetto to be able to come out of the other side and to work on the film, and without the emotional attachment, without the wound attachment. And there were people, and this is when I learned what it means it takes a village. Ravit Marcus, I want to remember, she's an award-winning documentarian, you know her. She, in the last months of the film, she helped me a lot to bring things into structure, and so for that, and Gina Ann, my partner, and she was also as one of the story consultants on the film. It was about play, about bringing the inner child. This is the process that I had to go through to connect to my inner child without shame, without judgment, just like Dave, without judgment, to play and to embrace. And then I can look at the yellow flower. You know, oh, that's nice. And of course, Shirley Payton was the executive producer. was the facilitator for this. So thank God and thank you.
Again, the title of the film is Holy Ghetto, making its world premiere at Dance of the Films New York. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much.